Hello friends and welcome to my channel for a bonus video. This is a quick little intro to tell you about the conversation I had with Legend Series on his channel. It's the first 15 minutes or so. Legend Series, aka Tony, wonderful guy. He does a cool podcast on his page where he has conversations with different customizers and collectors and stuff. And he was kind enough to have me on to talk about craft and what I do, what I make on the channel, and the stuff we share in common. And it was just a really great conversation, and it offers a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff that I don't really get to talk about on this channel because of the nature of the videos that I make. So I'd love it if you would check it out and go give him a subscribe over on his channel. He's a great guy and he deserves your support. And without further ado, we'll get into the preview of the video.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Talking Figures. As always, I am Tony. Today's guest brings me true pleasure to bring to you guys. He is an amazing comic book artist and writer who's written for, or I shouldn't say written, but has done work for DC, Marvel, Image, and etc. He currently has his own comic book series out entitled The Count and Sin, and you can find all that on his website at ibrahimmustafa.com. He also has an amazing YouTube channel, which is how I found this man. And it is chock filled with diorama builds, custom figures, and actual vehicle builds, which is really blows my mind every time I watch him do it. He is a collector. He is a customizer, but most importantly, he's a very talented gentleman. And I'm excited to talk some figures with him. Please welcome to the program, the one and only Ibrahim Mustafa. Welcome to the show, man.
Man, Tony, thank you so much. Can we do that again? I'll get my wife in here real quick.
No problem. I'll be glad to do it for you.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's a very kind intro, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, very welcome. Listen, like I said, I'm a fan. I've been a fan for quite some time. When I first came into this whole, I don't want to say content creating, but when I first came to YouTube, I wasn't making videos. I was just watching because I'm a big customizer and diorama builder, and I was always looking for advice or tips. And your channel was one of the first ones that I found, along with a few others. And when I started this show, I wanted guys like you because you were the guys who brought me to YouTube. So I had to get you on here one-on-one and actually speak to you in person and pick your brain, man. So thank you so much for coming on the show, dude.
Thank you, man. That's so cool to hear. I make these things in a vacuum, so I never know how they're connecting. I mean, I get there's a lot of people give me nice feedback and stuff, but it's just like I'm in a room by myself, talking to myself, talking to little plastic guys. So it's cool to know that it reaches out into the world a little bit.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, man. So that's where we'll start right here with the toys. My first question, and I always ask this of all my guests: when did you start collecting, and what was the line or figure that got you into this whole world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have kind of a two-part answer. So, because I've heard you ask this and you say not the stuff your parents got you, right?
Yeah.
But there was a point when I was a kid where it was oh, I need all the Ninja Turtles though. You know what I mean? Like they might get you one, but you're like, yeah, but there's three more and I gotta have them. But I think the first time I was really beyond just, what you have and you feeling like that's what I want and sort of that collector mentality was definitely the movie star Ninja Turtles when the second Secret of the Use came out, because I always loved realistic stuff. And after seeing the movie, the little Playmates ones just didn't cut it for me anymore. I was like, they could look like that, So, the movie star ones were the closest thing we had back then,
Oh yeah, because I remember those turtles too when I got Michelangelo as a gift, and just like you, I was like, well, what about the other three? I was like, because I had never seen turtles like that before. I was shocked that not only did they kind of resemble the ones from the film, but they were also rubber. They weren't the plastic like all the other figures. So that for some reason blew my mind. I don't know why.
Yeah, they had the texture and the spots,
Exactly. Yeah. So we went. I mean, I went to every place to look for Leo, Donnie, and Raph, and
that's
it was
thing,
impossible. Right? Yeah,
and that's the first hunt I can remember. It was trying to find I've got this one. In every store you went to, they had a foot soldier and shredder, and you're like, that's not so four splinters just hanging out on the peg,
Yeah.
But the
So
second
now,
answer to that
yeah.
is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go please. Go.
Okay. So when I was 14 or 15, uh,
Okay.
the McFarlane Matrix figures came out. And
Oh, okay.
I think I saw an ad for one in like a video game magazine or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, that just blew my mind because it was like not just like a figure, but it was in a pose and it was like there were effects happening, like the bullet explosions off of those
Yeah,
like
yeah,
marble pillars. And it
yeah,
came with a little diorama. And I was just like, it's more than a figure, it's a moment in time. And I was so transfixed by that. And I was like, I have to get all these. And at that point I had a job, I was 15,
yeah.
and so I was like, I was just taking my little paycheck money and I was going to every Toys R Us I could find in the area until I could get all of them.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. No one's ever said the Matrix toys. You're the first guy.
Am I
Every,
really,
yeah.
man, it's just like, I
Every
couldn't
so
believe,
far, yeah, so far, everybody I've asked, they always say the Star Wars Power of the Force, because for some reason
oh,
they
yeah,
thought that that was going to be like a moneymaker line. That's why they all started buying them.
yeah,
But I've never heard anybody say the Matrix toys. That's kind of impressive
yeah,
because that's like obscure.
yeah, because I loved, like I said, realism was my thing. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that was the most realistic thing that had ever come out at that point, as far as I was
yeah,
aware.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
didn't even care that you couldn't pose them really. I mean,
yeah,
like Neo's arm was like stuck like this and you could do
yeah,
that, but
yeah.
like, I didn't care. I was like, I set them all up, I had them
Yeah.
in my room.
That was what, like 2000, 2000,
It
a
was
little
like, it
later, right?
was 99 or 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, because when
Somewhere.
he started, he came out with those lines. I remember where they would not pose much, like maybe an
Right.
arm would move,
Yep.
but it was like you said, transfixed. Because he did Conan too, if I'm not mistaken, like a
Yep.
couple of statues and stuff. And Conan is my favorite character. So whenever I saw those, I was really wanted to buy them because I love Conan, but because for some reason I have a real hard on for articulation, and
Yeah.
because it was only the one arm, I just or the like one whatever it was, I could never pull the trigger on those things. But I saw all of those Matrix ones too. You're talking about, and they were literally to me little like statues. They were little pieces of art, like for real,
Yeah.
for real.
And I think they were like 15, $20 back
Yeah,
then.
yeah, affordable too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not bad,
I
man.
I've since like I still have a few of the original ones that I had
Oh
back then,
wow.
but I've since like rebought them, and like to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
or just to like have a complete one that wasn't,
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
like I didn't lose a little gun from it or something.
Yeah, yeah. So now, when you got older, obviously, what brought you to diorama making and like customizing?
I so I've always been into figures and I've always kind of picked up stuff over the years. Superman's my guy. So like I would just kind
Okay.
of like if I saw a Superman figure, I'd get it generally if it
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
within the realm of the style that I liked.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I had a bunch of those, and then when the Man of Steel hot toy came out, I was like, I
That's a
gotta
good
have
one.
this. Yeah, so that was my first like I pre-ordered a figure, did the
Oh,
layaway plan, all that
yeah.
stuff. um, and then I'm trying to remember when I got into dioramas. Oh no, I'll tell you exactly what it was. So I kind of got into customizing because I love James Bond and I wanted a James Bond figure.
Okay.
And so I found like a 1/6 Daniel Craig head, it's just like one of those cheap
Yeah,
ones from China that's like kind of good, but the
yeah,
paint's not
yeah,
good. And so I made a little Bond out of that. Because 1/6, man, it's like I don't really collect 1/6. I have maybe like 15 of them, but like they're so much easier to customize because like the clothing and everything, the bodies, like they're all abundantly available.
Oh wow. Okay, I never knew that.
Yeah, so that was the first custom I made, and then I was like, man, I really want a John Wick figure, and this was
Yeah.
before there was any John Wick figures.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where do I go but back to McFarlane Matrix stuff? Because I was like, that's a little Keanu Reeves head right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got one of those. I've sculpted a little beard on him, dremeled the hair off, sculpted hair onto him, found a
Wow.
suited body to put him on, and I made a diorama of the like that like bathhouse like sauna place in the first
Yeah.
movie that
Yeah.
he goes to, the red circle. And so that was my first diorama, and I had to go to the Goat Owl Figures to find out how to make
Yeah.
them. You Google how to make a diorama or whatever, and eventually you find his videos. I think he's like the
Always. Yeah.
gateway for most of us, right? So yeah, and that just taught me, okay, insulation foam, magnets, and then
Yeah.
paint. And I already knew how to paint stuff because I'd been drawing and painting my whole life. So from there, it
Yeah.
was just kind of like trying the different medium out. And then I was hooked. Then it was like, well, all my figures need some kind of setup
Kind of
now.
upgrade. Yeah, yeah, for real. Yeah. So, dude, your vehicle work is second to none. Like I've seen the
Thank
like the when you did the tumbler out of that like playset.
you. Yeah.
I remember watching that video and I was sitting. I think I'm pretty sure with my wife, and I said, "This guy just made a fucking car out of a goddamn playset." I was like, "Holy shit!" And then the Knight Rider one. So that's really what I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, because I loved the Michael Knight figure that you customized.
Thanks, man.
Fucking fantastic, dude. And but what brought you to like, yo, I'm gonna build this car. Like I'm gonna make this car.
Yeah. So I've always been like a car guy, and I love having like like a miniature version of like a real thing. Like something
Hell
about
yeah.
that just on
Yeah.
like a caveman brain level, like just like makes me go like, oh, so and I think it started. I realized recently I watched this documentary about Mr. Rogers, and
Okay.
it like sparked something for me. Do you remember? Did you watch that as a kid?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You remember they had the little miniature neighborhood and the little
Yeah.
cars parked in front of the little houses? I saw
Hell yeah.
that in this documentary and I was like, oh my God, that's it. That was the thing that I saw as a little kid that made me like obsessed with small
All
versions of big
things.
things,
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I just like when I made that John Wick figure, I was like, I wanted a Mustang for him. And when I was younger, my best friend had a 70 fastback that looked, a lot like the one he drives.
Yeah.
And so I was already like into Mustangs. And then I was like, man, if I could find a Mustang to scale with him. And that actually became my white whale. I eventually found one, but it took probably like
It's
6 years
wild, right?
to track one
Yeah.
down. But yeah, so then I just kind of expanded on that idea, and I was like, what if my collection was like the character that I like in their iconic like vehicle that goes with them,
Vehicle.
like
Hell
those
yeah, dude.
pins.
Yeah.
And I mean, what more iconic car than Kit, right?
Then Kit.
Yeah,
Dude, when I saw that video, I was just like, fuck. I want a 112 scale Kit. That
right.
all I kept thinking in my head was like, because I see some third party places now making like they made the General Lee, and they're
Mm,
making the 18 van, like straight
yeah.
up 18 van, and that's sick. But I mean, what are we waiting on? And then like I said, I was like, I remember thinking to myself like, well, that damn Ibrahim Mustafa already has a kit, doesn't he? I was
I'll
like,
tell you
God
what,
damn,
man, that thing was oh God, what a labor of love to put that thing together too.
hell
Like,
yeah, dude.
so
And
for those who haven't
when you
seen
would,
it,
yes,
I
please
found like
explain.
yeah, so there was a company that called Gay Toys Inc., I believe, and they
Okay,
made like all these plastic vehicles, and they had them in different scales.
yeah,
And in like a 112 scale, they made a Pontiac Firebird, or it's either Firebird or Trans Am or both, and then Corvettes.
yeah, I
And I
have
think
one of their
maybe that's all they
Corvettes.
did. Yeah. So, and
Yeah,
you can find them on eBay usually pretty easily, but
yeah,
the Pontiacs are a little harder to come by. And
yeah.
I found one that like wasn't too beat up, and
Okay,
it's an actual toy from like 1984 or whatever.
before, yeah,
Yeah, and they just like that's what's crazy to me, Tony, is like
yeah.
all these companies now like can't seem to make a 112 scale vehicle,
I
but it's
know,
like back in the 80s they were cranking them out. You
pumping
can
them out.
find them at a CVS or Walgreens, whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, I love finding. I grew up really poor, and so like a
Yeah.
lot of it was like you kind of got to make your stuff,
Stuff.
and
Yep,
like
yep, yep.
yeah, so I really just get a real kick out of like finding this disused old thing that kind of sucks and like
Yeah.
making it something desirable.